Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, it's still March 18th, and I sent out that short video this morning. All I can say is that this is a time for cool heads. All right? This is the time that's going to separate the men from the boys. And I don't necessarily mean the people that have money and the people that don't. It's going to get much more difficult than just about who has money and who doesn't. Well, in Cyprus this morning, of course, they closed the banks until Thursday. They've actually been closed since Friday. One of the things that happens in these manipulations, these bank holidays and these thefts from the people, is that they actually do it on a Friday because the people get their government checks and their paychecks and all that on a Friday, even in Cyprus. So the money's there, and they took 10% of that, okay, because the people can't get it out but in small amounts in the ATMs. And as I explained before, there's only so much cash in a bank. Even the ATMs can dry up. So what's happened is those people are now left without any way to finance their lives. And what we have is a situation where there are now things like firebombings and stuff like that going on. And who knows if it's the citizens or if it's false flag type thing that's going on. It's really hard to say. The point is that you don't want to get trapped in this. Now, I'm not giving any advice here, but I know what I'm going to do is I'm not going to leave my money in the bank. Now, is it going to come to the United States right away? No. And they might even handle it different here. The people in Cyprus supposedly had insured assets in the banks as well, but that didn't matter. And they're calling this 10% theft. It's actually closer to 15 to some people. They're calling it a tax. Well, it isn't. It's robbery, okay? In the United States, they're going to tell you, well, you're okay here because you have federally deposit insurance corporation, protection. But you got to understand how this works. And I'm not a finance guy, okay? I've spent all morning talking to finance people, listening to people that know about this thing. I'm a soldier, okay? That's what I've been most of my life, as a soldier. I look at things from a tactical and a strategic combat perspective, all right? That doesn't mean I don't understand how you can take over a country financially or damage it, but I don't know all the ins and outs. So what I'm telling you here is what I basically learned today. Okay, so here in the United States, they are raiding pension funds. 2 years ago, they took pension funds, to make up the difference to the deficit. They did something similar to that at the beginning of this year. But it gets more nasty than that. What will happen here, I gather, is not that they can't attack your bank account directly, but it'll be more subtle. What they'll probably do here is have a bank holiday. In other words, they'll close the bank until you don't have anything to worry about because your money's insured, but they'll devalue the currency. So when the bank opens back up, let's say you had $1,000 in the bank, just as an example. So they say, you're insured for $1,000, you'll be fine. The problem is when the bank opens back up, that's now worth actually half of what it was before the bank closed. So it's like $500. So they're playing games with the amounts, and you'll see this in the gold. Okay, the gold will go up in price, which shows that your currency is worth less. Now, right now they're capping the gold because these guys, they control everything. But gold technically should probably be $2,000 to $3,000 an ounce now, but it is around $1,600. Back just 2 or 3 years ago, it was around $800 an ounce. So you see how they devalued what you have already by half? Well, that'll happen again, except this time it'll be even more drastic because you're having all these economic problems all over the world. All right, so how do you fight back? You don't let them have your cash. You don't let them have your money. before everybody else makes a run, I'm going to go get mine. I'm going to have it out, and I'm going to put it into other things, for me. Stuff that I know that I can barter with or something later if the requirements are there to do that. So I'm leaving it to you. Of course, you have to make your own decisions, but I see this as being a very, very bad thing in the short run and a terrible thing in the long run. So I've spent a lot of time on the financial business right now, but you're going to see this thing go from Cyprus to Italy to Spain to Portugal, and all that whole Eurozone there. Germany, I don't know. Germany's kind of manipulating the whole thing right now. But at any rate, if you compare Italy to the United States or Greece to the United States, those are the types of problems that the United States is going to have when the problems come home to roost here. They're already here. They're just blowing it up. $85 billion a month the Fed's printing to keep this thing afloat, and it's still not doing it. Okay? So when these problems you see in Greece and in Italy are actually happening here right now, we're just not feeling the pressure of it yet. We're not feeling the wounds, but those are coming, okay? And when it comes, it's going to be real bad. All right. Georg Kramer of the German Commerzbank has called for a 15% levy on all Italian accounts that will then move throughout all the countries in Europe, and any country that is signed on to the derivatives from the too big to fail bailout that taxpayers gave. That means he's saying it's going to come to us too here in the U.S. Not just in Europe, but in the U.S. as well, because we signed on to those derivatives as well. Our politicians did. The people that represent us did this to us. Gave that money to the too big to fail banks, and then charge us interest for the money they give back to us. It's such a scam. It's just, I can't believe the American people are letting this happen. If there was ever a reason to rise up in a revolution, considering what's happening in the Bill of Rights and now this banking thing, it's now. NDAA, they can come take you out of your home and not even have to tell you what you're being arrested for. All they got to do is accuse you of terrorism. I could go on, and I'm not going to. Prepare, Get your food supply, get your water supply, water purification, get barterable items, get gold, get silver, land if you can afford it, although they're probably going to take that too. This is not looking good. And people say, "Oh, don't be so down. Don't be so negative." Awake, people, to your awful situation. This is really bad. Okay? I don't know what else to say. All right. Like I said, there are going to be some false flags coming. You got this thing with North Korea. But I think to push things over the edge and to blame vets and conservative gun owners, like I said before, they need to get your mind off this financial stuff, and they want to blame the vets for something and the gun owners. So there's going to be a false flag soon. Let me tell you something. Militarily trained people, even militias, I would think, aren't going to target a non-military target that doesn't have any military significance. They're not going to go bomb a daycare or a federal building where there are kids. If you see that happen, that is a government-operated false flag. Okay? I'm just going to tell you that. I'm on record. Okay? There's no way to stop this. Okay. As a side note, did you know Obama has a taster? Did you see that in the news here the last little while? Obama has a taster. Maybe all the presidents have. I don't know. But I think it's funny. At the inaugural, he had the bolts taken out of the Marines' M14 rifles. And now we find out that he has a taster and he couldn't eat at this one function because his taster wasn't there. Does this sound like an Egyptian pharaoh or a Roman emperor? I tell you what, this is unbelievable. Okay, back on the on the economic thing. Reuters today has a story with the president of the Dallas Federal Reserve Branch, who says that crony capitalism is going to take down the U.S. economy now. Now you might ask, well, why would a Federal Reserve guy tell us that? Well, the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, of course, kind of oversees the whole thing, but these individual areas, you know, these people who aren't in the very tops of the elite groups, they can see what's happening, and they can see that this thing's going to be sacrificed, and they're going to be hurt too. So some of them are getting concerned now. All right? But look at that story. It was in Reuters today. All right, I could probably talk about a few other things, but I'll just say this. There's another possibility for a false flag, a big one. Small yield nuke or a chemical or biological attack. Remember I was talking about those port cities? That's still a possibility. But some other examination of some things brings up 4 other cities: Cleveland, Dallas, Chicago, and Denver. Probably not LA. The reason why is because the Chinese have too many assets there, and nobody who's going to pull off a false flag is going to want to piss off the Chinese, especially if they're in cahoots with them. So the Chinese are running our ports down there now. They have a lot of assets in California. They have these tax-free zones that the government has given them all over the place, up to 50 square miles, I understand, in one place up in Idaho. I don't know all that much about that, but I did hear it through the grapevine. But these things are around, so they don't want to damage any Chinese interests, because those are the people that are paying the bills right now. So I don't see anything happening in LA. I don't think North Korea would fire into LA. They're probably going to look at, like, you know, Midway Island or maybe Hawaii, but I don't think that North Korea want to risk damaging Chinese interests on the West Coast. Again, I could be wrong about that, but that would be my estimation. Okay. You know, maybe I'll leave it with that for right now. Just look at all the things in the financial world that's been going on, and the people that haven't been held accountable. The LIBOR scandal, the MF Global scandal, the whole thing that Goldman Sachs did with the derivatives and the too big to fails and the bailouts and the mortgage bubbles, and all of these things that are going on, and nobody's going to prison. You know, you could say, well, Ken Lay did, or, you know, some of those guys, but they're still not the big people. And right now, Holder's saying that the banks are too big to prosecute. Look at who's causing this, okay? And I'll end with this, and then I'll have another video later when I can organize my thoughts a little better. I rushed through this one because I've spent so many hours going through these pieces of information, and what I'm telling you now is kind of like the more important part of it. There was one time, if you believe in the New Testament, if you have that kind of a religious or spiritual belief, there was one time when Jesus got angry. You remember when that was? It was at the money changers at the temple. He whipped them and he beat them and he threw them out. Okay? The one time he gets angry, it's at bankers. And they were doing the same thing then that you see happening now. The exact same thing. Now, a little different circumstance in that, you know, you would take them 10 coins and they would give you 1 korban that you could use to give to the korban was the sacred treasury for the temple. But the point is that they were making, you know, what, tenfold on that? And I don't know the exact denomination, but that's kind of what's happening. The bankers are the problem. Okay, they have been throughout history. Thomas Jefferson said he would rather face a standing army than to have to face a national banking system that controls the issuance of currency. That's why they gave it to the Congress. And of course, like everything else, the Congress we don't want to have to worry about that. We're going to give it to somebody else. Plus, we'll all get our little bit of riches this way. You know, we'll steal it and nobody will know it for years and years. All right, enough for now. I'll get this out. I'll try to organize it a little bit better for later, but I wanted to make sure that something was out there on this now.
Leave it up to your own judgment as to what to do, because it's not going to happen tomorrow here in the U.S. Devaluation could happen tomorrow. As a matter of fact, it actually happens every day. The currency devaluation happens a little bit every day. But it could be a massive one at some point in time. So it's up to you, but my money, it's not going to stay in the bank. Enough to pay 1 or maybe 2 months' bills, and that's it. Okay? That's where I'm going with it. All right. You all take care. God help us.